I'm Aaron at 1maybe2 Retro. Today we're going to create a new C64 Diag test cartridge. I have been using this C64 Diag test cartridge rather successfully, maybe not completely, considering some of the challenges I had with it previously. I've been using the C64 Diag test cartridge for the last couple builds or rebuilds that I've been working on. It's been working out fairly well, but Matthew Desmond of the famed Des term that you may be familiar with, that's been out since the early 90s, and he's continued to maintain it, has created a new test cartridge that is an alternative to the dead test and can help with even some of the most dead computers. In the last video, trying to repair a Commodore 64 Revision A motherboard, I tried to harvest some SID chips to try and find a known working SID chip by harvesting from some of the more recent Commodore 64 purchases that I've made online through a specific online auction site. Not the site's fault itself, but it looks like those two units are really dead. Now, I bought them as is and took the risk of either them coming with no socketed chips whatsoever, maybe completely harvested of all chips, etc. But when I was doing some basic testing on them to see if they would even glow up, I am seeing the VDC showing some signs of life. So I think it's worth continuing to investigate these systems, and to do that, I want to make sure that I have a test cartridge. So I finally bought an EPROM burner. I used it to take an image of the C64 Diag cart. That's pretty easy to do, actually, once you have the right software installed and you have the unit up and running. You essentially take your ROM, you drop it in, you open up the software, and in opening the software, you should be able to check the ID of the ROM, and there you can see it came back with the ID. At that point, you're able to read the ROM, and so I'm going to read it. Oh, pardon me. Not supposed to do that until we pick a proper chip. I believe that this is did I save the favorite? This one took a bit of sleuthing, but this is Win. Well, we know it's a 27C512 made by Winbon, and it's so a W27C512 at dip 28. So let's select that. Let's check the ID. There's the proper ID for this chip, this particular EEPROM. Or it might just be an EPROM. I believe it's an EEPROM. And now we should be able to read that chip once it's got the proper settings. And there you can see it's read it, and it's taken an entire dump of that 512K and dumped it into this hex editor. At which point you're actually able to save this ROM, and you could use a piece of software like Cart Convert or Cart CONV that comes with WinVice, and you'd actually be able to test this as a virtual cartridge with most of the programs that are on it. So the specific cartridge that I have has 8 different diagnostic tools, including the most recent 781220 dead test, the 58622 Diagnostics, the 58622 asterisk Diagnostics, which includes specific codes for the SX64, a SID tester, which goes beyond just the basic 58622, a keyboard tester, a joystick tester, the 1541 tester, which is another excellent tester, and Jupiter Lander, which because it uses the, let's see if I can remember the term properly, just like the dead test, it uses the Maximo. You have to set it with a high ROM, and it loads in under 4K, and only requires a certain number of the Commodore 64 chips to be functional for it to be able to function. Like the same with the dead test, it does the same thing. And Matthew Desmond's new card, if I've researched this correctly, does a very similar thing. It loads into the E000 block of memory, and goes into the maxi mode, and here it is. All you need is a working CPU, VIC2, and PLA. And the ROMs, the CIAs, and the SID are not required and can be removed if they're throwing a blocking error. It'll even work in the 128 similarly. So I'm planning on using this tool. The problem is I don't have it burnt into a ROM. So yesterday, was the first time I had ever burnt a ROM. This is it right here. And all I did was a test burn and made a replica of the C64 diag cart into the ROM. The next thing I needed to do, and I started doing that today, was I needed to build a new version of this cartridge with and insert some of the updated ROMs that I needed. Now, one of those I don't have downloaded yet. I've already downloaded Matt Desmond's. He has two different versions of the software. One is a straight up Max. The other is a SwiftLink version that allows you to communicate over RS-232 and see the diagnostics results if you aren't able to get a video output. That you need a SwiftLink card. I don't have a SwiftLink card, I don't think. It's been in any of my acquisitions. If it has, I'm going to be ecstatic because I'd love to test that out as well. I also have, it's probably buried somewhere, but I have a number of null modem cables, but you need a null modem cable to go between two computers, which essentially crosses over the transmit and receive signals of the RS-232 pinouts. So I'm going to upgrade this to the 58622 which it may already be at that. Well, in fact, we can double check that. And the way you do that is we just do a search, and we're going to look for the 58622, and we're going to look for that ASCII term. There it is. That's where the cartridge starts. It is in the second bank, so it's going to be 2000 and beyond. Looking for that ASCII. Oh, I see there's the star star. So I'm going to assume that the plus, this is not the plus plus. I could be right, I could be wrong, but it's not going to hurt. And it's certainly going to be an interesting experiment for us to layer in the 58622 on top of this. And I'm going to show you how to do it. So the first thing we need to do, so as I said, I've already downloaded Matthew Desmond's ROMs. You can see I have both the SwiftLink and the Dead Test Max ROM loaded here. Let's go and find us which is it, the 5862200 ROM. Now I think this is World of Janny. our Yanni. I think it's World of Yanni. I think he keeps the latest. And so you can see that we have the plus source code. We have the bin for the plus here. And then we have the plus version here. And this has a paddle update here, which I think is more recent. So we're going to download that one. We'll open that file. And is this that actual size? Okay, we're going to check some things out because we can't use a file that's over 5K. Let's copy them all. I said 5K. I actually meant 8K because I mean we could program a ROM with up to 16K, up to a 16K bank, but the way this is set up is that there are 8K banks, and we'd have to sacrifice a pair of banks that are side by side, either bank 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6, or 7 and 8, to be able to put in a 16K. And that's not what I want to do today. So if these are all larger than that, I think that means that we're using the ++SX64 fixed bin, I guess. Well, we'll find out, won't we? So we're copying these. And we're going to copy them over to the folder that we had our TL48, or sorry, T48. We had our T48 user data in. That's where we want to go. We're going to put it right there. That's it. Okay. So here's our programmer. The next thing that we need to do, we can do it before or after, but I'm gonna change the chip. These are different chips, and you have to tell it what chip you're using. So this is an ATMEL or ATMEL, an AT27C512R. This is an EPROM, but my understanding is it's not erasable. It's a one-time write, or one-time program, OTP. But they're very abundantly available, and I don't plan on erasing my Diagnostics cartridges on a regular basis. So, to help me figure out what memory address I had to put what in, I took this, reverse engineered it, and had a quick look through the ROM by using the search. And again, you can see we can find that, okay, the 586220 asterisk is in the 5000 range. And knowing that the cartridge goes in banks of 4K, in other words, hex 0 to, hex 000 to hex 2000, we know that this is in the third bank. Hey, look, the sheet says it's in the third slot. Just to double check that, we can look for another item. Okay, 586220. It looks like it's in bank. It's going to be an address range of hex 2000, so 2000 to 3 FFF. And yeah, that's the second bank. So with that information, I was then able to create this cheat sheet here, which really just reproduces this in something that I can then add my own information. So for example, here are the 8 programs that are in well, we're going to make this a little bigger. Here's the 8 programs, and here's each of their start address range in hexadecimal, which we're going to need to be able to layer in new ROMs over any one of these pre-existing 8K regions. Now, I did say that I was going to double check that the 586.220++ diag is under 8K. So I'm going to show you how I am going to do that. I've already got this ROM saved, but of course, if we wanted to save it, we would say, okay, here is our Western Digital 512 DIP. We can drop it in the there. Oh, and it said it's saved. Okay, excellent. So now I'm going to open a new ROM, and I'm going to open one of the ones we just downloaded. Let's start with this, and let's just open that. And we're going to leave it at load normal. We're going to bring it into, we're going to start it at 000, and we're going to clear everything else. All right, so you can see it's cleared everything else with Fs. It started at 0000, and it ends before 2000, so it's less than 8K in size. Perfect. So we should be able to layer that right on top. And by the way, we can do that search again for that number. And look, it has the ++ there. Let's have a quick look at one of the others. And so you can see here that this one says it's 32K. Why is it so big? Well, let's clear the buffer and we'll go over top of it and let's have a look here. So we have data. So we have a cartridge that starts here. And then we have another cartridge that starts here at the next bank. Okay. Oh, and seems to use most of that bank. 4,000? Okay, so I recognize this code. That would, if I'm not mistaken, let me just go back here and have a look at what would be in the, let's see, that was 4,000, right? Huh. They seem to have a different test tool than that. That's interesting. That looks like, yeah, so that's the 1541 Diagnostics. Yep. Now they've got that in the 4th bank. Whether they got it in the 6th bank. I bet you that's just looking for anything that is hex related, but I'm thinking, no, don't recognize that. There we go. See, so here, this is a dead test. No, this is this is a 128 test cartridge, and then it's blank. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, well, we aren't going to use that. Let's load. So in theory, this is the version I already have on the chip. this one, plus plus, has the expanded paddle test. It's the exact same file. Oh, which one is which, though? Oh, they have dates on them. Oh, jeez. There you go. As I told you, this would be a journey. Okay, so this is the file that we're going to use to, to patch our ROM with. Okay, so again, back. Let's go back to the one that we exported, right? Which was this one right here. That's the WinMon. Right? And if we open that and we have it right over everything in memory, we should have stuff all the way to the 512K. Good. And we can just verify that we have the original 2 here. Okay, great. So the first thing we're going to do is we want to actually replace the 58622. Now, I hadn't planned on doing that, but I'm going to replace it with the plus plus. And so that's going to start at hex 2000. And so I'm going to show you how to do that with the programmer. We can easily, remember, we loaded in a copy of this diag-cart, and we are now going to replace one section of it by loading in the one that we just downloaded, right? We're going to use this one, which is the most recent that was created. Now, before you click happy on OK, we've got a couple settings we have to change. One, we have to tell it that we want it to go to the address and start to fill here at 2000 hex. Pretty easy. So 2000 hex, and we don't want to clear the rest of the buffer with default. And so now if we do that and click OK, you can see where we originally read 586220 with nothing after it, we have 586220 plus plus. But we still have all of our other data. So, I'm able to, for instance, I keep doing this. Here, let's do that. My data here, that's the most important one, address range, where we got our references. So we've replaced that, and we could look for 781220 over here. Find 781220, and yep, it's still in the first 2000 hex address range, 0 to 2000 to be precise, just so I don't get confused. Okay, the second thing we're going to do is we're going to load the HD Max. I'm going to replace the joystick tester because it's not incredibly useful, and I already have it on 2 other chips. So I already have it on these 2 chips. So, even when I make a couple more Versa carts, I'll have 3 test cartridges. So, I can always switch to another test cartridge, and they'll all work with that harness. So let's get the MD Max loaded in here. We want to load that into where the joystick tester is. I couldn't find any reference text, but we know that it starts in A000, and that's where we want HD Max. Now, I will make a note that because the HD Max uses max mode, the dip switches will change. It'll be very similar to Jupiter Lander and the dead test cartridge, where you need to have your game on. It doesn't matter whether EPROM is on or not. and you will have to have your ROM high. It needs to load into ROM high, and actually will, if I'm not mistaken, I think it only loads 4K max, or that's the maximum amount of RAM you're able to access in that mode. So, but again, it gives you that option to use very little of the actual computer itself to try and get past certain issues that could be related to the CIA, the SID, even technically the VIC-2. So we're going to load that cartridge in, and we'll browse here, and we're going to go to the Max, not the SwiftLink version, but the Max version. We're going to open that. We're going to carefully make sure. Got a little bit of lag on my computer. We're going to carefully make sure that goes into A00. Again, referencing my little cheat sheet I made for myself. That's going to go in where the joystick tester is. And we are not going to clear the buffer. And we're going to click OK. Now, if I go Find and I go Des, look what we have here at A00. We have Desmond's RAM test thing version 0.1. Thank you, Matthew Desmond. Really appreciate this. I am hoping it is going to help me diagnose some things. Okay, and we're going to load one more in. And of course, if you want, before you burn, you should just double check your work. And we'll make sure that our plus is still there. And then we can also make sure that we have the star. It's still there. And then we're going to load the next one. And this one we want to load where Jupiter Lander was. I'm not really interested in playing the games, but want the option of having a SwiftLink. Yeah, I listed as SW there, SW Swift, but it should be Matthew Desmond's SL tester thingy. So one more load as we go. All right, and we're going to open the SL ROM. We're going to put it, I'm just going to change this. I don't want to get punchy with my numbers here. And we're going to put it at E000. And we're going to go OK. Okay, so now if we find Des again, there he's at the first instance is at A000. And we find the next. Oh, it's, his name's in there twice. And look, there it is again, this time with SwiftLink. All right. Before we save this bin, let's change our chip, because we are not going to be using, oh, it's already changed. We're not going to be using the Wimbon. Oh no, we need to make sure we use the Amtel, because the chip I am using is the AT27C512R DIP. Now, before I change that, I'm just going to hit save. And I'm going to, let's see, browse. Now, you saw that I saved this, but I'm going to change the name, because this also has the new 586220 plus P 0817 2017. Okay. Plus Matthew Desmond Max plus SL. Okay. And it's an AT20. And this is actually, this is a Wimbon 27. So we're going to save that. Great. It's been saved. And now I'm going to change the chip, because I didn't really know if it was going to affect it or not when I changed the chip. There's the AT27C512R. You can see that I had it filters everything based on this. So that is the model chip I'm pretty sure that I have. You see? It overrode it. We didn't want it to do that. I'm glad I saved. So here we go. We're going to browse and we're going to load in the one we just saved here. Open. And there we go. And you notice it didn't change the chip. Good. So in theory, we should be ready to burn. And heck, let's just do it. So we drop the chip in. There we go. I'm going to close the burner. We're going to check the ID. It was able, here, I'm going to expand this. It was able to come back with the read device ID. And so now we're ready to program, I believe. We're going to check that it's actually blank. We're going to verify after. We're going to do a pin detect. We're going to check the ID. We're not going to worry about the serial number. And we're going to hit program. Fingers crossed. Program. It's flashing. This is so cool. This will be the second flash I've ever done, and the first one that I've ever done where I've put a new program on it rather than just copying one to another. There we go. Succeeded. All right. Now, do remember that we need the settings that we're in are I'll have them here for reference, but to access this we use the regular settings, but it should be the ++, and this is going to be the max settings and the SW. And so what we're going to do is we're going to test the cartridge first on a known good working machine that we just saw me finish fixing. And then we're going to, so we'll make sure all the modes in the cartridge work. And then we're going to hit it, the new test bin, bread bin with it in my next video. Okay, let's test it. So I'm going to open that up. We're going to put our trusty chip in here. Now, these are new. Oh, there we go. Make sure its half moons are matching. There she's in. We're going to set. We're going to test the diag cartridge first. So that's. Oops, I shouldn't have made it that small. Come on. No. That's the slot 2, which means the dip 1 is off. Off, and then on, and then off, like that. And then this, I believe, has to be on ROM low. There we go. So now this should work. We'll get at our tester here. We'll make sure that this plugs in. Well, might as well run it through a full test, I guess. Why not? Let's see what it looks like. If you don't want to watch the full test, you can fast forward. We're going to skip the keyboard. And there we go. So let's just put that aside. We'll put in our 5-pin video. Oops, don't want to do that. Should have checked to make sure it was off first. Okay, we have the cartridge set and plugged in. We've got everything plugged in. Let's see what happens. Look at that. There's our revision 586220++ working exactly as we expected it should. This is awesome. I just created my own diagnostics cartridge on top of the existing one that I use with some of the more recent tools that I want to use. If I had known that this wasn't a ++ version, if I had known a ++ version existed when I bought it earlier in the year, I would have, you know, what would have I done? I don't know. So here we go. And don't worry, that 4066 at U28, we know that is expected. And it shows the keyboard is open, which is good. Great. Let's have a look at Matthew Desmond's test. This one I'm excited about. Okay, so this is we're going to have to move this to, I believe, ROM high. We're going to have to turn on that. And then in my guide, we said we put it where the joystick tester was. And so that is on, off, on, off. I believe that is the joystick tester. Now, if I got it wrong, might not work, but let's have a look. Here we go. Now this might take a little bit longer for it to start up, but there we see that flickering. My understanding that that's a proper test. I think we have to wait here. Interesting. Very interesting. Did we put it on the wrong settings? Or did I put it on the wrong settings, really, is more like it. Well, isn't that cute? Maybe there's another issue with this computer that I don't know about, and the test cartridge is finding it. Well, let's see if the dead test still works. So dead test on this should be, well, dip 2 says off, and all 3 of these on, and that on ROM high. Now, I know the dead test works because I ran it. And again, you got to be patient. You got to wait for it. And there's our dead test. And it's testing the 0 page. Now it's testing the stack page. And the test is complete. And no errors. No errors. Well, we know that works. We get to the last one. All those pins have to go down. So let's see if the let's see if the SwiftLink works. SwiftLink version. Aha! So there you go. There's the SwiftLink version up and running properly. And so now it's running through the tests, in theory. It should also display to the screen, I thought. It may not be able to execute because it's not detecting a connection via the Swift link, or there might be an error. Let's go back, and I'm going to this time leave the EX, this jump dip 2. I'm going to leave it where it's at, and I'm going to go back to the joystick tester, which is down 1, up 1, down 1. So that should be bank 6. It shouldn't matter that. Turn it on. There we go. So yeah, dip 2 I think actually makes a difference. Pardon me. Look at this. It's testing. Okay, that's part of the test. Good. This is so cool. Thank you again, Matt Desmond. And I gotta say, you know, Adrian Black of Adrian's Digital Basement. I think it was his episode that included this after coming back from WCF. He had run into Matt and got a copy from Matt there. Matt has, as you saw, has made this available on his website for non-distribution use by individuals. Thank you, Matt. We really appreciate that. And you can go to Retro Rewind. They are now licensed to sell diagnostics cartridges with this built in, which is absolutely fantastic. It looks like I've got a new test cartridge for testing our devices. This is great. And it looks like this is coming back with flying colors, pardon the pun. Now remember, it only tests the first 4K of RAM. So, in its RAM test. I know that a number of people have asked Matthew Desmond to expand that capability, and I bet you he's looking into it. Okay, now I think I have the tool that I need to be able to move on to the next bread bin that I got that you may have seen in the revision A, the fixing of this, and that saga, with what looks like it's going to be a much more difficult computer to diagnose and fix. So I'll see you in that episode. Thank you for joining me at 1 Maybe 2 Retro. Looking forward to you being ready for the next video. I don't know if you saw that. There's a ladybug flying around down here. I'm not sure where it's going, but it's watching what I'm doing and it's distracting me. Down there and just flew away. Okay, good. Don't land on me.